Ancient cities were built as maps of the night sky. This is not a poetic coincidence, but a deliberate global phenomenon, a profound mystery we are about to unravel. By the end of this journey, you will understand the night sky not as a distant spectacle, but as the original blueprint for civilization itself. Why would cultures separated by oceans and all invest immense effort to align their streets with the stars? What forgotten knowledge did they encode in stone for us to discover? The answers rewrite our perception of history, blending science, spirituality, and a lost vision of cosmic order. What do you believe drove humanity to build its greatest monuments in conversation with the heavens across continents and centuries? This same pattern emerges again and again. It is a universal phenomenon, a shared human instinct so powerful it transcended geography and language. In Egypt, the three Great Pyramids at Giza form a perfect terrestrial map of the three stars in Orion's belt. Over in the Americas, the Avenue of the Dead running through the heart of aligns not just with the setting sun on a specific day, but is believed by researchers to mirror the distances between the planets in our own solar system. From the temples of Angkor Wat in Cambodia, designed to mirror the Hindu cosmic myth, to the ancient city of En in China, laid out according to celestial principles, the evidence is overwhelming. This was not a coincidence. It was a conscious, deliberate choice made by builders who had never met, who lived in entirely different worlds, yet who all looked up and saw the same instruction manual. Experts in the field of archaeoastronomy, like Dr. describe this as a cosmological imperative. It is the idea that humanity has a fundamental, almost primal drive to order our chaotic world here on Earth according to the perfect, predictable patterns we observe in the sky above. The city was more than a collection of homes and markets. It was a sacred diagram, a terrestrial map of the cosmos itself. Think about that for a moment. Why would a civilization pour generations of labor into moving mountains of stone, not just for defense or commerce, but to create a giant, permanent star chart on the ground? What profound need were they answering? It speaks to a belief that by replicating the heavens, they could harness their power. By building a microcosm of the universe, they could ensure cosmic order, harmony, and perhaps even divine favor within their own walls. This universal quest to bridge earth and sky forms the very foundation of our mystery. It tells us we are not looking at isolated superstitions, but at the fragmented pieces of a lost global understanding. That universal blueprint for order served a purpose far more immediate than abstract philosophy. For the ancient ruler, the stars were a source of undeniable authority. Consider the immense power in being able to point to your capital city and declare, "My rule is not my own invention." It is written in the heavens themselves. This was the first and perhaps most compelling motivation for building celestial cities, of political and spiritual architecture designed to legitimize power. A newly crowned pharaoh in Egypt did not merely inherit a throne, he inherited a sacred landscape. By directing his people to gaze upon the pyramids at Giza, a perfect earthly mirror of Osiris's constellation, he was making an unshakable claim. His authority flowed directly from the gods, because his domain was a physical piece of their cosmic domain brought down to earth. This was not subtle symbolism, it was monumental propaganda carved in stone. The message to every citizen was clear: to obey your king is to align with the divine order of the universe itself. This practice spanned the globe. In ancient China, the emperor was known as the Son of Heaven, and his seat of power, the Forbidden City in Beijing, was meticulously designed to reflect the purple forbidden enclosure, the celestial palace of the supreme deity in Chinese astronomy. The layout of walls, gates, and halls created a terrestrial copy of that heavenly court. For anyone standing within those walls, the architecture was a constant, overwhelming reminder that the emperor's mandate to rule was not just political, it was cosmological. His laws were an extension of celestial law. His palace was a piece of the sky. This fusion of astronomy and authority reveals a profound truth. For these ancient builders, celestial patterns were not just maps, they were tools of governance. They were a language of legitimacy written across the landscape, a way to transform raw political power into something sacred, eternal, and unquestionable. It made the ruler's position a natural, inevitable part of the world's structure, as fixed and predictable as the rising of the stars. While this power on Earth, it also answered a deeper, more human yearning, a desire to connect with those very forces through sacred ritual. But that power needed a stage, and the city itself became that sacred theater. Think of a high priest standing atop a temple platform at dawn, watching the first sliver of sunlight pierce precisely down the center of the city's grand avenue on the spring equinox. For that moment, the entire urban landscape was not just a place, but a living instrument, a mechanism designed to capture and manifest a celestial event. This was the second, deeply intimate motivation for celestial cities, to create spaces where ritual and worship could physically bridge the gap between humanity and the cosmos. These were not passive monuments. They were interactive stages for a cosmic drama in which every citizen had a role. Take the magnificent complex of Angkor Wat in Cambodia. Its design is a breathtakingly literal map of the Hindu universe. The 5 central towers represent the peaks of Mount, the home of the gods, surrounded by concentric walls and moats that symbolize the mountain ranges and cosmic oceans of mythological cosmology. To walk from the outer gate toward the central sanctuary was not merely a physical journey, it was a spiritual pilgrimage through the layers of creation itself, moving from the earthly realm toward the divine center. This architectural philosophy was a global blueprint. In the Americas, the Great Sun Dagger site in Canyon uses cleverly placed stone slabs to cast a dagger of sunlight onto a spiral petroglyph only on the solstices and equinoxes, turning a cliff face into a precise solar calendar. These designs allowed ceremonies to synchronize human life with the immutable rhythms above. Planting, harvests, and religious festivals could be timed not by guesswork, but by the undeniable alignment of stone and sunlight, of avenue and star. Scholars called such places axis, the center of the world, the point where heaven and earth connect. For the people living there, their city was that axis. By participating in a procession along a solstice-aligned street, they weren't just walking to a temple, they were walking with the sun. They were enacting their place within a living, breathing universe. This transforms our understanding of ancient urban life from a collection of mundane chores to a daily participation in something profound and spiritual. Every sunrise witnessed from a certain doorway, every festival held when a star appeared over a specific pyramid, reinforced a worldview where the human and the heavenly were intimately, inseparably linked. Yet, this profound spiritual connection was also inextricably tied to the most practical of human concerns, survival itself. This profound spiritual connection was also a matter of life and death. The grand avenues and towering temples served a purpose as practical as a farmer's almanac, encoding critical astronomical knowledge directly into the landscape for survival. Beyond legitimizing rulers and facilitating ritual, the third, and perhaps most foundational motivation for celestial cities was agricultural and calendrical precision. In an age before printed calendars or digital alerts, a society's entire annual rhythm, its planting, harvest, and ceremonial seasons, depended on an intimate, accurate reading of the sky. The city itself became that reading, transformed into a giant, immutable public clock. Picture a Mesopotamian farmer gazing toward the city's central ziggurat as the sun sets. He is not just looking at a temple, he is reading a sundial on a colossal scale. The precise length and direction of the monument's shadow, cast along a processional way, told him the exact day to sow his barley, ensuring the fragile seedlings would not be caught by a late frost or an early drought. This was not guesswork, it was applied science etched in stone. The careful orientation of an Egyptian temple so that the rising sun of the winter solstice flooded its inner sanctuary did more than honor a god. It marked the year's turning point, the promise of the Nile's eventual flood, and the rebirth of the land. These alignments were a civilization's backup hard drive, a permanent record of celestial time that could not be lost, burned, or forgotten. They embedded the community's most vital knowledge directly into its physical bones. A powerful example of this practical genius is found in the Maya city of. Here, buildings are meticulously aligned to the complex cycles of Venus. The Maya observed Venus not merely as a beautiful evening star, but as a powerful celestial actor whose appearances and disappearances were meticulously charted over an 8-year cycle. These Venusian cycles were intricately woven into their sacred calendar, the N, which in turn governed the timing of agricultural activities, from clearing fields to planting maize. A priest astronomer could use the alignment of a specific doorway to confirm Venus's position, thereby knowing precisely when to announce the start of a new agricultural season. The city itself was their observatory, their calculator, and their communal bulletin board. This transforms our understanding of these places from purely spiritual centers into the ancient world's most advanced data centers. Every citizen, simply by living within this designed environment, participated in a shared, precise understanding of time and season. The stability of the entire society, its food security and its social cohesion, was literally built into the streets. It raises a compelling question. If they could encode such sophisticated astronomical and calendrical science into architecture, what other layers of advanced knowledge about mathematics, engineering, and even acoustics might be waiting for us to discover in the silent stones? The silent stones around us hold a secret of staggering ambition. They are not merely arranged, they are plotted, with a precision that seems to defy the tools of their time. Translating the fluid map of the night sky onto the fixed, rugged canvas of the Earth was an engineering challenge of the highest order. How did they do it? Without satellites, without laser levels, without even a simple theodolite, ancient surveyors relied on an intimate partnership with the sky itself. Their toolkit was elegant in its simplicity. A gnomon was nothing more than a vertical stick, but by meticulously tracking the moving tip of its shadow over the course of a day or a year, they could chart true north, mark the solstices, and lay out perfect cardinal directions. In Egypt, an instrument called a merkhit, a plumb line with a narrow siding slit, allowed priests to track the transit of specific stars across the meridian, creating a celestial clock of immense accuracy. This was horizon astronomy, using the natural landscape as a giant protractor. A notch between two distant hills might mark the rising point of a crucial star, a target to be mirrored by the placement of a temple door or the endpoint of a grand avenue. The scale of their ambition is breathtakingly illustrated by the lines in Peru. While not a city, these vast etched into the desert floor depict animals, plants, and geometric shapes, many aligned with solstice sunrises and star clusters. They represent the same impulse on a monumental canvas, a desire to draw celestial patterns on the Earth so large they could only be comprehended from a vantage point high above, perhaps meant for the eyes of the gods themselves. This leads to one of the great debates in the field. Were these builders thinking even bigger? Theories of lines propose that ancient sacred sites, from stone circles to hilltop forts across places like Britain, are connected by straight, energetic alignments across the landscape. While mainstream archaeology often attributes these lines to chance, given the sheer number of ancient sites, the possibility tantalizes. Could there have been a grand, coordinated plan to weave the entire land into a cosmic diagram? Whether or not those specific lines are intentional, the very fact we can debate it speaks to the awe we feel for their capability. This was not the work of amateurs. It points to the existence of a highly specialized, revered class of individuals, astronomer priests or master architects, who held this celestial knowledge as a sacred trust. They were the human link between the cosmic blueprint and the earthly foundation, capable of directing thousands of workers to execute a vision that would take generations to complete. The social organization required, the sustained communal will to see such a project through reveals a society unified by a profound and shared cosmic purpose. Their silent achievement forces us to ask, if they could engineer landscapes with such intention, what specific stories were they trying to tell through the unique layouts of their greatest cities? The Giza Plateau stands as perhaps the most audacious claim of this celestial architecture. For centuries, the three Great Pyramids were admired for their size and engineering, but in the late 20th century, a startling new layer of meaning was proposed. The Orion correlation theory suggests these monuments are not just tombs, but a perfect star map frozen in stone. According to this idea, the arrangement of the pyramids of Khufu mirrors the precise alignment and relative brightness of the three stars that form Orion's belt. The theory goes even further, proposing that the placement of the pyramids matches the sky not during the traditional Fourth Dynasty when they were built, but as it would have appeared in a much more distant epoch, around 10,500 BCE. This date points to what Egyptian texts called the first time, a mythical golden age when the gods were believed to have walked the earth and established cosmic order. In this view, the pyramids were not merely honoring a constellation, they were anchoring that primordial, perfect moment in the landscape for all time, a way for the pharaoh to connect his reign directly to the dawn of creation. The visual parallels are undeniably striking. The two larger pyramids align diagonally, with the third slightly offset, just as the two brighter stars in Orion's belt align with the third, dimmer star. Proponents also note how the Nile River, flowing past the plateau, could be seen as a terrestrial reflection of the Milky Way, the celestial river of the gods. Critics of the theory are quick to point out that with countless stars in the sky, finding a matching pattern among three prominent structures could be a coincidence of chance. They argue the archaeological evidence firmly places the pyramid's construction in the Old Kingdom. Yet, even if one views the correlation as symbolic rather than a precise astronomical blueprint, its power is undeniable. It captures the essence of the ancient mindset, the drive to make the eternal cycles of heaven permanently visible on Earth. This single site compels us to ask, was Giza an attempt to build a machine for traveling back to a sacred time? Whether one accepts the specific date or not, the theory reveals how a celestial pattern could be loaded with profound mythological and historical meaning, turning a necropolis into a permanent monument to a lost golden age. It demonstrates that the sky was not just a map for layout, but a repository for sacred stories that civilizations yearned to physically inhabit. This profound desire to tell stories in stone and sky was not unique to the Nile, as a parallel mystery unfolds an ocean away. A similar celestial ambition was carved into the high plateau of ancient Mexico. The colossal Avenue of the Dead stretches for over 1.5 miles, flanked by massive pyramids and platforms. To walk this avenue is not simply to move through a city, but to embark on a journey through the solar system itself. The groundbreaking work of researchers suggests the city's architects did something astonishing. They may have encoded the orbital distances of the planets into the very layout of their sacred space. According to this model, the Pyramid of the Sun acts as our central star. The distances from this pyramid to other key structures along the avenue then correspond with remarkable accuracy to the relative spacings between the Sun, Venus, Earth, Mars, and the asteroid belt. Even the complex at the avenue's southern end is proposed to represent the orbit of Saturn. Think about the profound implication. This was not a static map of fixed stars, but a dynamic model of moving celestial bodies, a representation of cosmic mechanics built on a human scale. The precision involved, whether intended as a perfect mathematical scale or a powerful symbolic gesture, points to a sophisticated, long-term observation of planetary motion. For what purpose would a civilization build such a thing? Many scholars believe the Avenue of the Dead was designed for ritual processions that were initiatory journeys. A priest or a spiritual seeker walking its length was not just moving from one temple to another. They were symbolically traveling through the cosmos, passing by the orbits of planets, perhaps reenacting a soul's journey or a myth of creation. Each step was a meditation on humanity's place within a vast, orderly system. This transforms from a city of the gods into a functional orrery, a clockwork universe made of stone and earth, where ritual movement could synchronize human consciousness with the dance of the planets. It represents a leap in celestial thinking, from mirroring the fixed stars to modeling the complex, predictable wanderers of the sky. This case study compels us to widen our view even further, to ask if this cosmic blueprint was merely a spiritual exercise, or if it served a far more practical, even urgent, purpose for survival. To find that answer, we must look to a civilization that turned the sky into a precise agricultural calendar. This cosmic order was not just a spiritual ideal, it was the very architecture of statecraft. In the heart of ancient China, the capital city of En was a masterpiece of intentional design, its streets laid out in a perfect grid aligned with the cardinal directions. This was no accident of urban planning, it was a deliberate echo of the heavens. The entire city was oriented to the circumpolar stars, that unmoving pivot of the night sky around which all other constellations endlessly turned. To the Chinese astronomer, this was the purple forbidden enclosure, the celestial court of the supreme deity. By aligning their earthly capital with this eternal, unchanging center, the emperors were making a profound statement. Their rule was as fixed and central to the human world as the polar stars were to the cosmos. This was the physical manifestation of the mandate of heaven, the belief that a ruler's right to govern was granted and maintained by cosmic approval. The emperor, titled the Son of Heaven, did not live in just a palace. He resided at the precise point where the celestial and terrestrial realms intersected. His city was the Middle Kingdom, the Central Kingdom, because it sat directly beneath the center of the sky. Every minister, every soldier, every merchant walking those geometrically perfect streets was living inside a three-dimensional diagram of this belief, a constant, silent reinforcement of a divinely ordained social order. This philosophy was rooted in ancient practices like the art of placement and detailed astrological texts that dictated how to channel the flow of celestial energy, or qi, through the built environment. The goal was to attract harmony and prosperity while deflecting chaos, ensuring the stability of the state itself. Centuries later, this tradition reached its zenith in Beijing's Forbidden City. Its layout is a breathtakingly literal map of cosmic hierarchy. The outer courts represent the earthly realm, while the inner, private chambers of the emperor mirror the innermost sanctums of the celestial palace. The names of gates and halls, the colors of the tiles, the number of steps, all were carefully chosen to reflect astronomical principles and mythological narratives. To govern from such a place was to perform a continuous ritual, aligning the fate of the nation with the orderly motions of the universe. This reveals a key insight. In China, celestial patterns were woven into a comprehensive system that linked philosophy, politics, and daily life into one seamless whole. It finds a direct parallel in the Indian tradition of Shastra, which similarly prescribes how to build homes and cities in harmony with cosmic forces. These were not isolated superstitions, but sophisticated frameworks for creating a world in balance. Yet this grand vision of cosmic harmony inevitably faced a formidable challenge: the messy, unpredictable reality of human history. What happened when the stars in the sky seemed to disagree with the events unfolding on the ground for the ancient planner? The blueprint was not just a technical drawing, it was a sacred text written in streets and stones. The myths they held were not distant allegories, they were the literal operating instructions for the universe, and their greatest task was to build those instructions into the very ground beneath their feet. This is where celestial patterns merged completely with mythology and cosmology, transforming urban design into a form of three-dimensional storytelling. To walk through such a city was to move through the chapters of creation itself. In the Hindu tradition, the holy city of Varanasi is not merely located on the banks of the Ganges. It is believed to be the physical manifestation of Lord Shiva's cosmic form. Its labyrinthine lanes and countless shrines are laid out according to this divine anatomy, making every pilgrimage through its alleys a journey across the body of the god. The city does not just contain temples, it is the temple, a living, breathing embodiment of a cosmological truth. This concept was a global architectural language. In ancient Mesopotamia, a city like Babylon was not just dedicated to the god Marduk, it was considered a direct replica of his celestial abode. The Great Ziggurat, was famously known as the foundation of heaven and earth, a literal stairway meant to connect the human realm with the divine. The city walls, the gates, the procession ways, all were designed to mirror the heavenly blueprint described in their myths. The urban landscape became a sacred theater where the epic battles of gods, the ordering of chaos, and the very structure of the cosmos were narrated not with words, but with space and stone. This deep intertwining of belief and brick and mortar meant that daily life was an ongoing participation in the sacred story. Fetching water from a certain well, passing through a specific gate at a festival, even the view from one's own doorway, all were infused with mythological significance. The city was a constant, immersive ritual. It prompts a profound question: were these intricate designs meant to be read by the gods above, a signal to the heavens that humanity remembered the celestial order? Or were they, perhaps more importantly, instructions for humanity itself, a permanent, unshakable reminder of our place within a grand, storied universe? This symbolic language invites us to explore a more speculative idea, one that pushes beyond mirroring the sky into the realm of influencing it. Could these celestial cities have been designed not just to reflect cosmic power, but to actively channel it, to serve as engines for something far greater than anyone on the ground could perceive? This brings us to a pivotal crossroads in our journey, the great Archaeoastronomy debate. Are these breathtaking celestial cities the result of a lost global science, or are we, centuries later, simply seeing patterns in the noise? This is not a trivial question. It is the essential reality check that separates romantic speculation from rigorous historical science. Skeptical voices in archaeology, like that of, offer a crucial counterpoint. They remind us that with thousands of ancient structures scattered across the globe, purely by the laws of chance, some of them will inevitably line up with significant stars or solstice sunrises. The human brain is a powerful pattern recognition machine, and we can sometimes fall victim to confirmation bias, selectively connecting dots that fit a compelling narrative while ignoring the many that do not. It is a healthy skepticism, a necessary guard against projecting our own awe onto the past. Yet proponents of intentional design have developed sophisticated tools to answer this very challenge. They do not rely on a single alignment, but on clusters of them. The methodology is key. Researchers use precise software to reconstruct the ancient sky, accounting for subtle shifts in the Earth's axis over a process known as precession. They then analyze not just whether a temple door faces a sunrise, but the statistical probability of that specific orientation occurring by random chance, given the hundreds of other possible directions the builders could have chosen. When a site like in Ireland has a roof box engineered to admit a narrow beam of winter solstice sunlight deep into its central chamber, an alignment that would be correct for only a few minutes each year, the argument for random chance grows extraordinarily weak. Furthermore, ethnographic records provide a living bridge to this ancient mindset. Studies of contemporary indigenous groups, from the Hopi in North America to certain Aboriginal communities in Australia, document detailed traditions of using stellar risings and settings to time ceremonies, tell stories, and navigate. These are not relics, but active, living systems of knowledge that demonstrate how celestial patterns are intentionally woven into cultural practice. This evidence suggests that what we see in the silent stones of Giza could very well be the fossilized remains of similar, deeply held systems. So how do we move beyond the debate? The most convincing cases arise where celestial alignment intersects with other layers of meaning, where astronomy meets mythology, meets mathematics, meets the very purpose of the structure itself. It is in this rich intersection that the argument for a deliberate, sophisticated design becomes most compelling. To truly grasp their intent, we must learn to read not just the positions of their buildings, but the symbolic language encoded within their proportions and their geometry. The silent geometry of the heavens found its echo in the silent geometry of the earth. While the stars provided a map, the deeper blueprint for these celestial cities was written in the universal language of mathematics. This is the realm of sacred geometry, where specific ratios and shapes were believed to hold the very keys to cosmic harmony, and ancient builders encoded them into stone with breathtaking precision. It was not enough to simply point a temple at a star. The temple itself had to be built according to the same mathematical principles that ordered the universe. This transforms their work from mere observation into a form of philosophical and spiritual engineering. They were attempting to build resonance, to construct a physical form that would vibrate in tune with the fundamental structure of reality itself. Consider the Great Pyramid of Giza. Its base perimeter divided by twice its height yields a number astonishingly close to pi, the mathematical constant that defines the circle. This was not a coincidence of measurement. It suggests the builders possessed a sophisticated understanding of this ratio, embedding it into the pyramid's very form as a symbol of cyclical perfection, and perhaps even the spherical nature of the sky. Across the world, the same principles appear. At Stonehenge, the arrangement of stones incorporates Pythagorean triangles, right-angled triangles with whole number sides, which were seen as embodiments of balance and sacred proportion long before Pythagoras gave them a name. In the layout of temples from India to Greece, the golden ratio, approximately 1.618, appears again and again in the relationship between a building's length, width, and height. This ratio, found in spiraling galaxies and the growth patterns of plants, was considered the formula for divine beauty and perfect proportion. By using it, architects were not just creating pleasing structures, they were infusing their creations with the essence of natural and cosmic growth. What does this mean for a city plan? It means the entire urban layout could be governed by these harmonic principles. The distance from the central temple to the city gate, the width of the main avenue, the placement of secondary shrines, all could be determined by a geometric progression based on a sacred number. Walking through such a city was a physical experience of mathematical harmony. You were not just in a place, you were inside a living equation for cosmic order. This mathematical layer reveals an even more profound intention. The ancient builders were not merely copying what they saw in the sky, they were attempting to replicate how the sky worked. They sought the underlying operating system, the source code of creation, and they expressed it through proportion and form. In their view, mathematics was the silent language spoken by the gods, and by learning its grammar, they could build a bridge to the divine. This pursuit of universal truth through geometry provided a stable, intellectual framework, a template that could be applied anywhere. But a template is only the beginning. The true test of this cosmic vision came when it met the unyielding reality of mountains, rivers, and deserts. How did this universal blueprint adapt to the infinite variety of the Earth's geography? The perfect geometry of the cosmos met the stubborn, beautiful chaos of the Earth. Ancient architects never had the luxury of a blank canvas. They faced roaring rivers, jagged mountain peaks, and sprawling deserts, yet their vision remained unshaken. This was not a conflict, but a creative partnership. The celestial blueprint was a guiding principle, not a rigid dogma, and its true genius is revealed in how masterfully it adapted to the living landscape. They did not simply impose a star map onto the ground, they wove the map through the very fabric of the land itself, creating a sacred synthesis of heaven, earth, and human intention. A mountain was not an obstacle to be removed, it was a divine feature to be honored. A river was not a boundary, it was a celestial river brought down to earth. The builders looked at their environment and asked, how can this natural feature become part of the cosmic diagram? The answer often transformed the entire design into something even more profound. High in the Andes, the Incan city of is the ultimate testament to this adaptive philosophy. Its buildings, terraces, and plazas are not laid out on a flat grid, but are meticulously fitted to the contours of the ridge, appearing to grow organically from the stone. Yet this is not haphazard. The entire city is oriented with deep intentionality toward the surrounding apus, the sacred mountain peaks that were themselves seen as deities and celestial markers. Key structures align with the sunrise over specific peaks during solstices, turning the entire natural amphitheater into a giant, interactive solar observatory. The peak itself becomes a central gnomon, its shadow telling time across the city below. Here, the distinction between the built and the natural dissolves completely. The city does not conquer the landscape, it converses with it, using the mountains as permanent pillars in its cosmic architecture. This practice was a global language. Across cultures, a solitary, dramatic peak on the horizon often became a natural calendar. A temple might be positioned so that on the longest day of the year, the sun would rise directly over that distant summit, a fiery crown placed upon the earth's head by the heavens. The natural feature was not an inconvenience, it was a gift, a ready-made celestial marker provided by the gods. This reveals a holistic worldview that is almost foreign to us today. For these builders, land, sky, and human creation were not separate categories. They were a single, integrated system. The river mirrored the Milky Way. The mountain mirrored the axis of the world. The city was the sacred junction where all these layers met. By incorporating the environment, they were strengthening the connection, grounding their celestial symbolism in the undeniable reality of their home. This flexible, creative application shows the practice was alive. It was a living tradition of sacred engineering that could travel, adapt, and flourish in any corner of the world, because it worked with the world, not against it. This deep integration did more than create beautiful cities. It forged unbreakable bonds between a people and their place, weaving celestial meaning into the very soil they walked upon. And from that profound sense of belonging, something equally powerful emerged, the social glue that held entire civilizations together. That shared cosmic blueprint did more than organize space, it organized people. Envision the sheer scale of the communal effort, thousands of individuals across generations hauling stone, carving pathways, and raising monuments, all directed toward a single, transcendent vision. This was not forced labor in the modern sense, but a collective undertaking that forged the very identity of the society itself. Building a city that mirrored the heavens was an act of profound social cohesion, a project that gave every person, from the highest priest to the humblest worker, a defined and meaningful role within a cosmic story. The finished city became a permanent, shared sacred map, and simply living within its bounds meant you understood your place in a universe much larger than yourself. Sociologists described a phenomenon called collective effervescence, those intense moments of shared ritual and experience that fuse individuals into a unified community. The celestially aligned city was the ultimate stage for this. When the entire population gathered to witness the solstice sunrise pierce the main avenue, or to process along a street representing the Milky Way, they were not just observing, they were collectively enacting their connection to the divine order. In a world without mass media, the urban landscape itself was the primary text, the daily sermon, the constant reinforcement of cultural values. Every walk to the market, every glance toward the central pyramid was a reminder that their community was not an accident, but a deliberate, sacred reflection of the cosmos. This unifying function points to a purpose even more fundamental than astronomy or authority. The city, in encoding celestial patterns, was also encoding the society's core beliefs, its myths, and its calendar into an indestructible public archive. It was a form of ancient data storage, built not on fragile parchment, but on the bedrock of the earth, ensuring that the knowledge that held the civilization together could not be easily lost. This leads us to a haunting and inevitable question. If these cities were designed as perfect, eternal mirrors of a stable cosmos, what happened when that cosmic order, or the society's belief in it, began to fracture, but the stones held more than just a story, they held a memory? In a world before paper, before printing presses, before digital clouds, how does a civilization ensure its most vital knowledge survives for 1,000 years? You build it into the ground itself. This is the compelling idea that these celestial cities were not just homes or temples, but functioning archives, vast libraries of stone and sky designed to preserve critical information across generations. The precise angle of a temple doorway, the exact spot where a solstice sunbeam touches an altar, the alignment of a street with a specific star cluster, these were not merely ceremonial. They were data points, a permanent, unchangeable record of calendar systems, astronomical cycles, and perhaps even historical events, encoded directly into the landscape for anyone who knew how to read it. This transforms our understanding of the ancient city from a place of living to a place of learning, a dynamic memory palace built on a colossal scale. Researcher Kelly, in her work with oral cultures, discovered a fascinating technique. Societies that rely on spoken tradition often use physical locations, a journey through a familiar landscape, as a memory aid. A rock might represent a clan's origin story, a bend in a river might cue a list of medicinal plants, a hilltop might hold the memory of a treaty. The entire territory becomes a walkable encyclopedia. Now, scale that idea up to the complexity of a city meticulously aligned with the heavens. Imagine a young apprentice priest walking the Avenue of the Dead at. His teacher is not reciting dry numbers from a scroll. He is saying, when the star we call the feathered serpent rises directly over the third platform on the left, that is the day we begin the count for planting. The city itself is the textbook. Every aligned structure becomes a chapter, every solstice marker a highlighted paragraph, ensuring that the precise timing of seasons, the movements of planets, and the narratives of gods are remembered with flawless accuracy, generation after generation. This memory code hypothesis offers a powerful explanation for the staggering effort involved. It was about cultural survival. By embedding their science into the immutable architecture of their city and the predictable cycles of the cosmos, these builders created a backup system that could not burn, could not decay, and could not be easily misinterpreted. The knowledge was safe as long as the stones stood and the stars turned. This concept makes the silent ruins speak with a new urgency. We are not just looking at abandoned buildings, we are looking at the shelving of a great library, its books written in alignments and shadows. It prompts a profound and unsettling question. If these civilizations were so adept at encoding knowledge for the future, who or what were they learning from? Could the precision we see be the refinement of an even older science, a legacy passed down from a time so distant its teachers have vanished from history entirely? The mystery deepens with a question that has haunted historians for centuries. Could these shared blueprints, scattered across continents like pieces of a shattered mirror, point to a single, forgotten source? The idea of a lost precursor civilization, a common teacher for the ancient world, is one of history's most enduring and controversial legends. It suggests that the precise astronomical knowledge we see in Egypt and beyond was not independently invented time and again, but was instead a legacy, a surviving fragment of a much older global science that was later fractured and forgotten. Proponents of this view, often called diffusionists, point to the uncanny similarities. How do we explain the pyramid form itself, emerging in cultures that, according to the conventional timeline, had no possible contact? They look at the complex calendrical systems, the obsession with planetary cycles, and the sheer engineering precision, and they argue that independent invention seems an almost miraculous coincidence. The name Atlantis, popularized by Plato, has become a shorthand for this hypothetical lost world, a sophisticated culture whose survivors supposedly seeded this advanced knowledge across the globe after its downfall. Mainstream archaeology, however, remains deeply skeptical of such catastrophic single sources. Scholars emphasize the overwhelming evidence for independent innovation. They point to the long, slow, and observable archaeological record in each region, showing the gradual evolution of pyramid structures from simple burial mounds, or the step-by-step refinement of astronomical observation over generations. The human mind, faced with the same sky and the same fundamental needs for agriculture and social order, is perfectly capable of arriving at similar solutions in complete isolation. This is the core of the independent invention argument. Furthermore, historians acknowledge proven periods of intense cultural exchange, like the interconnected world of the Bronze Age Mediterranean, where ideas about gods, writing, and architecture demonstrably traveled along trade routes. So the debate is framed: diffusion versus independent invention, a lost teacher versus a shared human genius. Yet, even within academic circles, there are tantalizing puzzles. The Olmec colossal heads of Mexico, with their seemingly African features, or the potential pre-Columbian transoceanic contact hinted at by certain plant genetics, remain open questions. These are not proof of Atlantis, but they are cracks in a simplistic narrative of total isolation. They suggest a human past far more interconnected and complex than our textbooks sometimes allow. Perhaps the truth lies not in a single sunken continent, but in a longer, more nuanced process of cultural cross-pollination that has been erased by time, where key astronomical concepts traveled further and earlier than we currently believe. This possibility does not require a super-advanced lost civilization, but rather a recognition of the remarkable navigational and intellectual capabilities of ancient peoples. It invites us to see the ancient world not as a collection of isolated lanterns, but as a dimly lit network, where a brilliant idea about the stars could, travel from one shore to another, adapting and evolving with each new culture that embraced it. Whether the knowledge came from a single source or sprang up independently everywhere, the outcome reveals something fundamental about us. It points to a shared psychological bedrock, a deep-seated human need to find order and meaning in the cosmos, and to build that understanding permanently into the world around us. The blueprint in the stars answered a need far deeper than architecture or astronomy. It spoke to the very wiring of the human mind, a relentless drive to find patterns and impose order on a universe that can seem random and overwhelming. Cognitive scientists have a term for this: apophenia, the tendency to perceive meaningful connections between unrelated things. For our ancestors, this was not a flaw, but a survival mechanism and a source of profound comfort. The night sky offered the ultimate pattern, a grand, predictable clockwork of lights moving with flawless regularity. The earth below, in contrast, was a realm of chaos, floods, droughts, illness, and conflict. By designing their cities to mirror the heavens, they performed a powerful act of psychological alchemy. They created a pocket of perceived order, a sacred space where the terrifying unpredictability of life was held at bay by the immutable laws of the cosmos. Within their aligned walls, the chaos of the world was not eliminated, but it was framed, interpreted, and given meaning. This fundamental need for coherence, for a story that makes sense of our place in a vast and often frightening universe, is universal. It transcends culture and era. It is why a farmer in Mesopotamia and a priest in Peru, separated by an ocean, and could arrive at the same profound solution, look up, map it down, and feel a little less lost. This deep-seated psychological imperative explains the motif's global reach. It was not a technology that had to be invented independently each time. It was an instinct, a shared human response to the awe and anxiety of existence. The city became a psychological anchor, a constant visual reminder that they lived within a structured, intentional cosmos, not a void of meaningless chance. This innate search for meaning, for signs and signals from a larger order, naturally flows into its most enduring expression, the practice of astrology and celestial divination. If the city's layout could harmonize with the stars, then surely the motions of those stars could offer guidance for the events within its walls. The city's layout was not just a reflection, but a receiver. If the heavens held a map for order, they also held a script for destiny, and the streets and temples became the stage where that celestial drama was read in real time. For civilizations like Babylon, astronomy and astrology were inseparable sciences. The precise motion of a planet was both a mathematical fact and a divine message, and the city itself was engineered to be the antenna. Imagine the practice of celestial divination in such a place. A court astronomer, perched atop the great ziggurat, watches as the red point of Mars rises directly above the Ishtar Gate, the gate dedicated to the goddess of war. This is not a neutral astronomical event. In the meticulous omen literature of the Babylonians, this specific alignment would be recorded as a warning of impending conflict, or a sign of divine favor for a military campaign. The city's architecture provided the fixed reference points, the gates and towers, against which the wandering planets could be interpreted. Each district, each major thoroughfare, was potentially linked to a deity or a facet of life, so the path a celestial body took through that urban framework told a story. This transforms the entire urban plan into a giant, interactive oracle. A king would not make a major decision about treaty, harvest, or construction without consulting these celestial signs read through the city's stone skeleton. The alignment was not a one-time event for the founders. It was a living system for ongoing divine dialogue. The city was built to ask questions of the sky, and to have the sky answer through the silent, majestic transit of stars and planets across its man-made horizons. This belief that the cosmos actively influenced earthly events created a powerful feedback loop. A successful harvest after a favorable omen reinforced the system's truth, weaving celestial patterns ever deeper into the fabric of governance and daily life. It was a cosmology of constant conversation, where the built environment served as the translator between human uncertainty and perceived cosmic will. This profound sense of the sky as an active, energetic force logically extends beyond mere observation into the realm of harnessing that force, where the lines on the ground were thought to channel the very energy of the stars themselves. This modern fascination with unseen forces has a name: lines. Picture, if you will, a vast, invisible web of energy crisscrossing the planet, connecting ancient mounds, stone circles, and sacred springs in straight, purposeful alignments. This is the speculative world that emerged not from ancient texts, but from the observations of an amateur archaeologist named Alfred in the 1920s. While surveying the English countryside, had a sudden vision of what he called a fairy chain, straight tracks connecting hilltops, old churches, and ancient monuments across the landscape. He believed these alignments, which he termed lines, were remnants of prehistoric trading routes or ceremonial pathways. But the idea was soon transformed by later thinkers, most notably John in the 1960s, who infused it with a new, mystical dimension. Proposed that these lines were not just old roads, but channels for a mysterious terrestrial energy, a kind of earth current that ancient cultures could somehow detect and harness. In this expanded view, a sacred site was sacred not just because of its alignment to a star, but because it sat at a powerful intersection, a node where this telluric energy, the energy of the earth itself, met and amplified the celestial energy from above. The city or temple built there became a kind of spiritual power station, a place designed to tap into and balance these cosmic and terrestrial forces. From this perspective, the choice of location was not arbitrary. It was the most critical step of all, dictated by a hidden geography of power that we have since forgotten how to see. This theory, while captivating, stands firmly outside the boundaries of mainstream archaeology and geophysics. Scientists point out that given the sheer number of ancient sites across any landscape, drawing straight lines between them is statistically almost inevitable, a classic case of finding patterns in random data. There is no measurable scientific instrument that can detect the kind of energy described by line proponents. Yet, the idea endures powerfully in popular culture, in alternative history, and in the practices of modern dowsers and earth energy enthusiasts. Its persistence is telling. It represents a deep, modern yearning to believe that the ancients possessed a lost sensory awareness, a sixth sense for the living pulse of the planet that we, in our technological age, have numbed. Whether these lines are objectively real or not is almost secondary to what they reveal about us. They show our desire to complete the picture, to add a missing layer to the celestial blueprint. If the ancients were mapping the sky, perhaps they were also mapping the Earth's own hidden anatomy, creating a fusion of cosmic and terrestrial engineering that we can barely comprehend. This speculative thread, woven from intuition and wonder, starkly contrasts with the cold, precise data now being revealed by our most advanced tools. The speculative lines drawn by intuition now meet the unerring lines drawn by lasers. Our quest to understand the celestial city has entered a new era, powered by technologies that see through both jungle canopy and the veil of time. Satellite archaeology and LiDAR, which stands for light detection and ranging, are not just tools, they are time machines. They allow us to step back, far back, and witness the ancient planners' vision at the scale they intended. For decades, the dense rainforests of Central America concealed the full truth of Maya civilization. Archaeologists on the ground could map individual temples and plazas, but the grand connective tissue of their world remained a mystery. Then came LiDAR. By firing millions of laser pulses from an aircraft and measuring their return, this technology digitally strips away the vegetation, revealing the naked landscape beneath. What it revealed at sites like Tikal was nothing short of revolutionary. The great city was not an isolated mountain of stone in a green sea. It was the brilliant, central node in a vast, intricate network of raised causeways, smaller settlements, terraced farmlands, and water management systems, all laid out across the region with astonishing geometric precision. These causeways, some running straight for miles, are now seen not merely as roads, but as potential celestial, deliberate alignments that connected temple to temple and city to city under the same cosmic order. This is the game-changing perspective. From the ground, you see a pyramid. From the sky, you see the pattern. These tools provide the hard, measurable data that transforms a compelling theory into a demonstrable fact. We can now confirm that an alignment suspected for decades, like the orientation of a distant outlier structure toward a solstice sunrise, is indeed intentional because we can see the straight, planned pathway that leads directly to it, a pathway invisible for centuries. This technological renaissance is doing more than proving old ideas. It is generating entirely new questions. It reveals that the ancient builders' canvas was not the single city, but the entire territory. Their celestial blueprint was regional, even continental in its ambition. This allows us to finally appreciate the true, staggering scope of their vision. They were not just building structures, they were engineering landscapes on a cosmic scale. As these digital maps unveil lost cities and forgotten alignments, we are forced to confront a humbling thought. Their intuitive, sacred science achieved a level of integrated planning that we, with all our satellites, are only now beginning to fully comprehend. This bridge between ancient intuition and modern verification does more than satisfy historical curiosity. It holds up a mirror to our own time, prompting a quiet but urgent reflection. In our modern cities of steel and glass, where the lights are our own and the stars are often blotted out, what have we forgotten? The ancient wisdom whispers that our habitat is not separate from our cosmos. Their legacy suggests that the places we build shape not just our bodies, but our minds and our sense of belonging in the universe. They encoded resilience, community, and a profound connection to natural cycles into their very streets. As we face global challenges rooted in disconnection and short-term thinking, their celestial cities offer a silent lesson in long-term vision. They teach that harmony with larger patterns, whether in the sky or in the ecosystems of the Earth, is not a mystical ideal, but a practical foundation for enduring civilization. This rediscovery through technology thus becomes more than an archaeological triumph. It becomes an invitation. It asks us to look up, not just with telescopes, but with a renewed sense of wonder, and to consider how we might once again build a world that remembers its place in a grand, beautiful, and orderly design. Their cities were dialogues with eternity, but what do we say with ours? The silent stones of the past offer more than a historical mystery. They present a profound, practical challenge to our modern world. While we no longer chart streets for star gods, the ancient principle of aligning our habitats with larger, natural cycles has never been more urgent. This is not a call to rebuild pyramids, but to rediscover the underlying philosophy, the wisdom of integrated, meaningful design that served civilizations for. Our contemporary pursuit of sustainable cities is, in many ways, an unconscious echo of that ancient holistic vision. Think of solar orientation, a cornerstone of modern green architecture. Positioning buildings to maximize winter sunlight and minimize summer heat is a direct application of solar knowledge, a practical, energy-saving translation of the solstice alignments etched into stone at places like. It is using the sun's path, not as a divine signal, but as a free and abundant source of power and comfort. Similarly, the movement to incorporate expansive green corridors and urban forests mirrors the ancient understanding of the city as part of a living landscape. Where they saw a sacred mountain or a celestial river reflected in their layout, we now design with principles, creating parks and waterways that mimic natural ecosystems to reduce heat, manage stormwater, and improve mental well-being. These are not coincidences. They are different expressions of the same fundamental truth. Human settlements thrive when they are in conversation with their environment, not locked in combat against it. The ancient model pushes us further, however. It teaches us to design with a long-term cosmic perspective. Their projects span generations, built with materials meant to last ages, because their blueprint was the timeless sky. In our era of rapid construction and planned obsolescence, what would it mean to plan with a 500-year vision? It would mean prioritizing resilience over convenience, community cohesion over isolated efficiency, and materials that heal the earth rather than deplete it. It asks us to consider the psychological and spiritual dimensions of space, to create cities that do more than house people, but that foster a deep sense of belonging and connection to the larger web of life. This is the true legacy of the celestial city, a reminder that the most enduring design harmonizes practical need with a profound sense of place within a grander order. As we look to the future, this ancient wisdom becomes a vital compass. It suggests that the solutions to our modern crises of disconnection, resource strain, and environmental stress may lie not only in new technology, but in a very old idea, remembering that we and everything we build are part of a much larger, beautifully patterned system. The brilliance of our modern world casts a long shadow, one that slowly erases the very stars our ancestors revered. Light pollution, that pervasive orange glow spilling from our cities, does more than just dim the night. It actively dismantles the context of ancient genius, severing the connection between the stones on the ground and the celestial map they were built to reflect. To stand at the foot of the pyramids today is to witness a masterpiece with half its reference material deleted. The intricate tapestry of constellations that guided their alignment is washed out, leaving only silent monuments under a blank, fuzzy dome. This is a dual loss, a fading of both cultural heritage and a fundamental human experience, the awe of a truly dark, star-filled sky. Our relentless urban expansion compounds this tragedy, as the vibrations of new construction and the encroachment of development physically threaten the delicate integrity of these archaeological sites. The very ground that holds the blueprint is under pressure. Yet, in response to this growing veil, a global movement seeks to reclaim the night. Organizations like the International Dark Sky Association work to establish preserves, areas protected from artificial light where the Milky Way can still blaze in its full glory. These efforts are not just for astronomers, they are acts of cultural preservation. To stand in such a place and see the sky as the builders saw it is to finally read their language in its original script. It is a poignant and urgent irony that our own illuminated cities, often constructed with little thought for the cosmos above, are blinding us to the celestial wisdom embedded in the old ones. This growing disconnect underscores a vital truth. Preserving these sites is not merely about saving old stones. It is about safeguarding a perspective, a way of seeing our place in the universe that our ancestors encoded into the earth, a perspective we are in danger of losing entirely under the glare of our own progress. The stones may weather, but the pattern they hold can now live forever in light and code. Safeguarding this intangible heritage, the profound understanding encoded in alignments and shadows, demands a new kind of preservation. Our most powerful tool is no longer the chisel, but the digital scanner. Through meticulous three-dimensional modeling and immersive virtual reality, we can achieve something once impossible, reconstructing these ancient cities as their builders intended them to be seen, beneath the precise night sky of their own era. Initiatives like the Digital Giza project are pioneering this frontier. They allow anyone, anywhere, to stand in a virtual desert, watch the simulated stars of 2500 BCE rotate overhead, and witness for themselves the moment the three pyramids align with the belt of Orion. The correlation is no longer a theory on a flat page. It becomes an experiential truth, a walkable argument under a recreated cosmos. This digital resurrection serves a deeper purpose than mere demonstration. It is an act of profound respect and insurance. Even if the physical sites face further erosion or the modern sky above them grows perpetually dim, the intellectual and spiritual achievement of their architects is secured. The blueprint is saved, not in stone, but in the cloud, accessible to all. This digital preservation must be paired with a living transmission of knowledge. Integrating the principles of archaeoastronomy into school curricula and compelling public documentaries transforms ancient wisdom from an archaeological footnote into a vibrant part of our shared human story. When a child uses an interactive app to align a virtual temple with a virtual solstice sunrise, they are not just learning history, they are thinking like an ancient astronomer, solving a cosmic puzzle. This keeps the knowledge alive, not as a relic, but as a spark for future innovation and wonder. It ensures that the next generation will look up at the night sky, or even at a digital reconstruction of one, and feel that same awe that inspired civilizations to build their dreams on the ground. This forward-looking approach, saving the past to inspire the future, finally brings us face to face with the ultimate, enduring mystery, these silent, star-aligned stones present to us. The vastness of their ambition leaves us with a haunting and final question. Were these star maps on the ground meant to be read by someone or something else? When you stand at the center of a site like the lines, you realize the full design is invisible from the Earth. Its colossal figures and geometric shapes only make sense from a vantage point high in the air. This undeniable fact has fueled one of history's most provocative and controversial ideas, the ancient astronaut hypothesis. Proponents of this view ask a simple, compelling question. If the builders themselves could never see their own work in its entirety, who was the intended audience? They suggest these patterns were not for human eyes at all, but were meant as signals, landing strips, or messages for beings visiting from the stars. While this theory remains firmly outside the boundaries of mainstream archaeology and history, its enduring power in popular culture is itself a kind of evidence. It testifies to the sheer, staggering scale of these projects, a scale that seems to defy any purely terrestrial explanation. It speaks to a deep human intuition that what we are looking at is not just a map, but a message. A more grounded, yet no less profound, interpretation is that they were communicating with the cosmos itself. In this view, the city was a prayer made permanent, a symbolic dialogue with the divine written in avenues and pyramids. By perfectly mirroring the heavens, they were sending a signal of reverence, understanding, and alignment to the gods, a way of saying, "We see your order, and we honor it by building it here." This was a communication of harmony, not of words. The act of building was the message. Whether the intended recipient was a star god, an extraterrestrial intelligence, or the impersonal forces of the universe, the underlying human impulse is the same, a desperate, beautiful need to reach beyond our own isolation and announce our presence to something greater. This question, ultimately unanswerable with our current knowledge, is what ensures the topic's eternal fascination. It reminds us that the past holds depths we may never fully plumb, and that our ancestors operated from a worldview so fundamentally different from our own that we may forever be translating its poetry into our prose. This enduring mystery compels a final, quiet reflection. What does it all mean for us, here and now, in a world that has largely forgotten how to look up the celestial city? Was a single idea expressed through countless disciplines. It was not merely astronomy applied to architecture, nor religion dictating politics, nor science serving agriculture. It was all these things at once, a seamless tapestry where every thread was essential to the whole. This is the profound synthesis we must now grasp. For the ancient mind, the universe was not a collection of separate subjects in a library, but a single, breathing story in which every element was in constant conversation. The motion of a planet was a divine decree, a mathematical certainty, a signal for planting, and a plot point in a myth, all simultaneously true. Their city planning was the ultimate expression of this interconnected worldview, a physical model of a universe where nothing stood alone. The sky was not a distant dome, it was the source code. The earth was not inert matter, it was a responsive partner. The individual was not an isolated citizen, but a conscious participant in a cosmic drama directed from the city's aligned stages. This holistic vision stands in stark contrast to our modern tendency to compartmentalize. We have experts for the stars, experts for the soil, experts for the soul, and rarely do their maps overlap. The ancient builders would have found this fragmentation bewildering. To them, separating astronomy from governance or spirituality from engineering would have been like trying to understand a song by studying only the notes, never the melody. Their genius lay in holding it all together. A street aligned to a solstice sunrise was, in one structure, a solar calendar for farmers, a processional way for priests, a symbol of the king's divine mandate, and a psychological anchor for every person who lived there. It served the body, the state, and the spirit in a single, elegant design. This is the most valuable lesson echoing from their silent stones. In an age facing complex, interlinked challenges, from environmental strain to social disconnection, their model whispers of the power of integrated thinking. It reminds us that true resilience and harmony may come not from deeper specialization in isolated fields, but from rediscovering the lost art of connection, of seeing how the pieces form a living whole. Their cities were built to maintain a constant, harmonious dialogue between humanity and the cosmos. In our search for sustainable and meaningful ways to live, perhaps the first step is not to invent something new, but to remember a very old way of seeing, one where every stone, every street, and every star was part of the same magnificent conversation. These silent stones are a mirror held up to humanity itself. They reflect a yearning so deep, it shaped the very ground we walked upon, a universal quest to find our place in a vast and ordered cosmos. What began as a mystery of alignments and angles reveals itself, in the end, as a story about us. We have traced how these celestial blueprints served as tools of authority, turning a king's rule into a divine mandate written in the landscape. We have walked their sacred avenues as stages for ritual, where entire communities could physically bridge the gap between earth and heaven. We have seen them function as colossal calendars and agricultural guides, embedding the essential knowledge for survival into the bones of the city. They were libraries in stone memory palaces designed to preserve wisdom across generations, and the ultimate social glue, uniting thousands in a shared, transcendent project. Whether one views the precise correlations as intentional maps or powerful symbols, the overwhelming prevalence of this practice across time and space tells us something undeniable. It marks a profound chapter in our collective story, a period when humanity looked up, saw a pattern of magnificent order, and felt a compelling need to build that order here below. The debates among scholars will continue, and that is a sign of a living, breathing mystery. But the stones themselves do not debate. They simply stand, waiting for us to remember how to see. So let this exploration be an invitation. Tonight, step outside. Look up at the night sky, not as a blanket of random lights, but as the original canvas, the first map. Then look around at the world we have built. What patterns are we weaving into our cities, our neighborhoods, our digital spaces? What story of our values, our fears, and our hopes are we etching into the earth for future generations to one day decipher? The ancient builders spoke to the cosmos in the language of geometry and alignment. Their message endures. It asks us to consider, with both humility and wonder, what we wish to say. If this journey from the stars to the stones has captivated you, we would love to hear your thoughts. What alignment or sight resonates most with you? Share your reflections in the comments below. For more explorations into the hidden patterns of history, subscribe and join us on the next journey into the unknown. Wherever you are, keep looking up.